So I'm sure there are already a number of videos about scales online, and I'm not sure how much more I can add to the mix, but I still wanted to make a video just because it's something that I'm passionate about, and I think it's important to be aware of different scale fingerings, because you never know what kinds of fingerings are going to crop up in your repertoire, just to be as versatile as possible in your scales. So I would say the most commonly used scale system is arguably the Galamian scale system, which applies to violin, viola, cello, and there's a great two-part book edited by Jensen, which goes through all the Galamian scale fingerings. But the great thing about the Galamian system is that there is consistency in fingering amongst all the 24 keys, right? So the idea is that the last octave is always going to be the same fingering. It's either going to be 1 3 1 2 1 2 3 or 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. So for example, if I were to do D major, last octave, 1 3 1 2 1 2 3. And the rest of it, you're just playing out the hand. And the other nice thing about the Galamian fingering is that it includes this little turn at the beginning. So the way that Hans teaches the Galamian fingering is he has all the students go from C with this detached bowing, listening for ring in the sound, and every note being 100% in tune. So detached bowing at the frog. For C major, I have to change on the F. I have to change earlier than the other keys. If I was doing D, I'd change after 4. But with C, you have to change there just because you're starting on an open string, right? So in order for the rest of the scale to be consistent with all the other keys, you've got to change on the F. Then you just play out the hand until you get to the last octave. And then there's the D string version. The great thing about this version is that it really teaches you about this very important position, thumb position. So you just go through all the keys like that, either on the A string system or the D string, and the more comfortable you get, the faster you can get. So etc. Then you apply the same fingering system to melodic minor or harmonic minor. So melodic minor, okay, 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. I'm going through it quickly because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you get the point. So it's the same fingering system, 3 octaves. and the best way to just learn all the keys is to do it detached at the frog, just like that. Once you have a good understanding of the keys, the great thing about the Galamian system is, and perhaps the most used thing about the Galamian system, is the accelerated pattern, right? So it's best to practice it with a metronome, but basically you pick a key, you start with 2 to a bow, then 3, then 4, then 6, then 8, so like... So it's better to do it with a metronome, usually to 60 or something, so that you're really focusing on evenness, also focus on bow distribution. I wasn't paying so much attention to that just now, just to demonstrate it, but that's the accelerated pattern system, which is very useful for learning one key in a Galamian fingering. Then there's also the 4-octave Galamian fingering, which is just a standard 3-octave scale, but then you add another octave with the same 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So D major. If you're doing 4 octaves though, the accelerated system doesn't really work, and you usually just play straight from the bottom rather than adding the... So that's the Galamian system, a really good one to know, and just kind of the foundation system for scales that I grew up with, and I think it's a great one to know. The next scale system is one that I learned from Richard Aaron when I was studying with him in Michigan, and so he's devised his own unique scale system, which I also think is worth exploring. And it's great because it allows you to focus on achieving balance in the hand, you know, so he has specifically chosen fingerings that allow you to maintain that and focus on that. So for major, he just plays out the hand, but then he goes up the D string, and then the last octave, it's always 1, 2, 3. And then the last semitone, you're just using 3, 3, kind of like a violinist would do it. And the great thing about it is that you're just playing out the hand. You're always playing out the hand, so it feels nice and balanced. And here's a great way of explaining the system, which I won't get into, but this can be like a crash course. The harmonic minor fingering, again, avoids extensions and awkward positions, which I like. So again, you're playing out the hand. Here is 1-4 rather than 1-3. Again, you're avoiding extensions. And then you just play out the hand. Just 1, 2, 3, all the way to the top. Which is great, because in the Galamian system, I guess I didn't touch on that, but the Galamian system, you have an extension there, and there, which is a little uncomfortable. It's important to know that position, where your first finger is tight with the thumb. Tight with the thumb. Sounds like they're best friends or something, but that doesn't mean there's this tight feeling here. It's very close against the thumb. I guess I didn't talk about that, but Richard Aaron's system avoids those extensions, which is great, again, to release the tension in the hand and just keep that comfortable balance. And then there's the melodic minor scale, and Richard's version of that goes up. It's like an octave in each string, basically. So there's the first octave, and then you incorporate your thumb. Through it a little more slowly, but I just want to get through them all for you. Usually I'll practice scales without vibrato, just to make sure it's really in tune and accurate, but that's unless you're working with the intention of improving your vibrato, then you really focus on evenness and balance in your vibrato from note to note. The great thing about scales is that it's kind of like a lab in which you can work on techniques that you're coming across in your repertoire, or that you need to focus more on, or that you need to develop in some way. So you know you can do scales, legato, detached, whatever it may be. Think of it as a lab. So you're constantly exploring and experimenting with bowings and things in your scales. The next scale that's worth talking about is one-string scales, especially practicing scales exclusively on the C string, because the C string is the thickest string, right? So it requires the most strength in the left hand. So if you practice scales exclusively on the C string, it can do wonderful things for your overall left hand strength. So a good way to do it is just to go up chromatically. Say you're doing it in melodic minor, whatever fingering you want to do, and you start it's best to do it slowly so that you're really holding each note down to build that strength, and then E flat. And then you come back down and just go through all the keys chromatically. It can take a while, but it's a really good way to warm up and strengthen the hand. And then there are open string scales where you're using open strings. You're just doing simple fingering. So like shouldn't play harmonic there. Open string scales, and those are great to know too, because especially in Bach, you're playing a lot of open strings, and you want to have just that basic fingering. And it's also great for practicing quick scales. Etc. So open string scales. Another good way to practice scales is combining, and this is kind of like a subset of Galamian scales, practicing the last octave of a 3-octave scale, because it's usually the last octave that's the problem octave. And so you can go up the A string. I'll just show you an example because it's hard to explain. Say C major. So you do it both the A and D string, and then you come down. Then you do it the next. Whatever rhythms, bowings engage your mind throughout, so just going up chromatically, that's a great way to fine-tune that last octave, and you can do it as slow as or as quick as you'd like. So that's a good one. And then you have thumb position scales, right? So my mind is taking me to this exercise in Starker's string method, which is something like it's based on that passage in the Beethoven A major sonata. But then he goes up chromatically. Things like that. So these are all different scale systems to know about. When people ask me why I practice scales, often my answer is very simple. If Jascha Heifetz had to practice scales, then I sure as hell do.